When I first got into this 2007, 2008, brands were a little reluctant to go on Facebook because they said, well, our audience isn't there. This is all young people. And then we watched the audience age up and age up and age up. And then there was this sort of glorious period from like 2009 to 2011 or so, maybe 10 to 12, where everybody was on Facebook. You had your 13-year-olds, you had your 65-year-olds, the sort of whole cross-section of society was on there. And now, if you talk to 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they're hardly ever on Facebook anymore. Maybe once a week. My daughter, who's 15, maybe once a week. Sometimes less than that. She's more on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and Vine and those sorts of properties. And so we've sort of evolved right past that point, that wonderful point where we had everybody is already over. And when I talk to people and say, do you think Facebook's a little more boring for you than it was 6 months ago? I haven't had anybody say no to that. Everybody sort of says, yeah, I'm getting a little tired of it. And so if you want to do marketing and you want to do it through social media, you can't just rely on Facebook. What I'm not saying is that Facebook's going to go away tomorrow. Even if everyone decided Facebook was uncool tomorrow, I think what we learned was from the demise of MySpace is just how long it takes a social network to go away. And how slow that process is. And so what we're really going to, I think, see is we're going to see page views go down. And they don't report that in their monthly or their quarterly earnings. They report daily active users, weekly active users, monthly active users. Where I'm not able to find as easily page views. I think people are checking in less often. I know I'm checking in less often, which is a challenge for brands trying to drive impressions and drive social actions. And we have to start thinking about that. The onus is on Facebook first, and certainly brands bear responsibility for crapping up the news feed, if you will, and particularly small brands. Some of the ads you see on Facebook are just horribly irrelevant and cheesy, and they're the same sort of blinking dumb mortgage ads that we saw on banner ads for years, just moved over into our news feeds, and brands are like that are just ruining the Facebook experience for a lot of people. And so brands bear that responsibility. Facebook, though, bears the responsibility for the user experience, and the user experience has gotten less boring coincidentally, not coincidentally, at the time they tightened up the algorithm, where they tried to make it more and more accurate as to which content you would and wouldn't see. And so where are 15-year-olds going? 15-year-olds are, the text generation. They want lots and lots of content quickly. They're over on Twitter, which doesn't even have an algorithm. Just let it all scroll by, and they're just drinking it in. That might be annoying to slightly older people, but Facebook's gotten to be to the point where it's just not interesting because they're so sure who my friends and friends are not that they're not serving up interesting content. There was an article yesterday about Facebook has 5 times the conversation of television that Twitter has. You would never know it looking at Facebook, in part because it's private, most conversations, and Twitter are almost always by default public conversations. But still, you just go in and you feel like there's nothing going on, and that's not a good user experience, and Facebook absolutely has to address that. They are getting the advertising formula in terms of making money right. They are not getting the advertising experience right in terms of the user, and that's a problem. In fact, when you talk to Facebook reps, which we do a lot, they just consistently say, well, give us more money. Well, we have this kind of ad, we have this kind of ad. You talk with other social network reps, and they talk about partnerships, and they talk about creative uses of the platform and how you can string these two things together to accomplish this objective, and you just don't hear that. Facebook is not particularly good at Facebook marketing. They write blogs that could have been written in 2009 about Facebook marketing. They're 3 years behind on how to market on their own platform. And all they spend their time on is sending people in to tell us to buy more ads. So it's not a surprise to me that people are buying because Facebook's position in the world, and that's been their point of emphasis, get people in there to buy those ads. But it's masking, I think, the much bigger problem that's slightly longer term. But I think we're only talking about a couple quarters before you're going to see this dip.